Good morning, everyone, and permit me to stand on existing protocols. Uh, His Excellency, the Vice President of Nigeria, and all invited guests, good morning. It is an incredible honor to really be here today. And I have to give a lot of credit to Dr. Aino, who opened today, because everything he spoke about today is something that I know that he believes in. Young people, the future of Africa, Canada Africa opportunities. He's been talking about this as far back as 20 years when I met him. And he puts his money where his mouth is. And I'll talk about that a little more. But I'd like to kick off this special day by really talking about the opportunity that's before us. And I think it's an incredible opportunity, especially when you start from my own story. My story started 25 years ago. I was a kid, fresh off a plane, from Nigeria, right? Like many immigrants. And I arrived at Michigan, East Lansing, Michigan, which is my birth country, and that's where I was born, but I grew up, in Nigeria. I came back with high energy, just like a lot of immigrants. I came back with ambition. I came back with the idea of this manual typewriter, right? That my dad forced me to learn as a very, very young kid. Before I could start coding with his new computer. He was like the first person to buy a computer on the campus of OAU back then. But that was my break, because at 13-year-old, I was coding for money on a university campus. I always tell people that coding set me free, because by coding and generating money on the side, I was free from my parents' influence because I had freedom. And so coding and entrepreneurship has defined me all my life, and I haven't stopped since then. So I stand here today not as a theorist, but as a builder, and really a bridge builder. Dr. Aino said it earlier. The politicians come, presidents come, and they issue directives, they issue policies. But it really comes down to builders. It really comes down to builders. It comes down to entrepreneurs. It comes down to universities to really execute and make it happen. So I'm excited today because I believe this room is full of people who are ready to build some of the most consequential bridges of our time. The fintech and capital bridge between Canada and Africa. I believe in Canada that the time is special because Canada has already built a talent bridge, right? Lots of immigrants coming into Canada, and we have an incredible community. Now the question is, what can we build on it? And the hypothesis of today, of this summit, is really to build a fintech and capital bridge between Canada and Africa. So I say good morning, Canada. I say good afternoon, I guess, in Africa, and good something for everybody struggling between the two worlds. But let me set the context of the conversation today. I think there's an interesting confluence that is happening today, and it's really between this quiet realignment and this loud global reorg that's taking place today. I think we're living in this quiet realignment of economic gravity. And this realignment is driven by, again, the continent. Everybody's talked about it. The youngest continent on earth. 70% of the people are under 30. Mobile money, leapfrogging, and really legacy infrastructure, solid minerals, arable land. I don't need to repeat all of that because we know it, right? And also, I think Dr. Aino has set the stage properly from a Canada standpoint: stable economy, solid diaspora community, capital rich, trust-based institutions that are mature, globally respected regulators, a strong diaspora hub. So that's one aspect of the quiet realignment. Now, how about the loud global reorg? The loud global reorg is anchored on moving from aid to trade, is anchored on realignment of allies from a trade standpoint, is anchored on the BRICS movement, US, China fighting, US, Canada, Mexico, just a whole bunch of reorg is happening today. Wars happening in Israel, in Ukraine, and then AI. AI is changing everything. So, it's so scary. People are losing their jobs at scale. They say blue-collar jobs are going away. So I need to go and learn how to do plumbing now or carpentry, because I heard those are protected against AI. So that is the loud global realignment. So I think now is the time. It is a special time. It is a time where we can take action because of the confluence of all of these things going on. And I think that Canada could be the center of this bridge, because everything is shaking up anyway. So during shakeups, during wars, historically, is when the biggest innovation has ever happened. Man going to moon, right? Invention of so many different things is during war that it happens. So I think the time is now. So why Canada? Why now? I think we set the tone, we set the stage, but I think it's beyond fintech. I think Canada has what Africa needs, which is patient capital, mature institutions, world-class fintech know-how, strong banks, and one of the largest Africa diaspora communities in the West. Africa has what Canada needs: untapped market, probably the only one left globally, right? Youthful energy, the ability to leapfrog, minerals under the ground, arable land, etc., etc. So it's time to leapfrog. And I think it's Canada's time to take advantage of that opportunity. And what is that opportunity? You think about diaspora remittances from Africa, $95 billion annually, which is larger than foreign aid, FDI. You think about pension capital that needs to be mobilized both within Africa and here in Canada. You think about corporate innovation across border. You think about sovereign wealth that's looking for diversification. So really the time is now. And the place can be Canada. How do we make it happen? I hear the diaspora superpower could be the big catalyst. It could be the big leverage. Diaspora is Africa's most underutilized asset. This America that we all shout about, the greatest country on earth as we've seen it, was built by immigrants, right? Think about all the Fortune 500 companies, how many of them are Indians, and immigrants? That tells the story. So diaspora is really Africa's most underutilized asset. If these people are sending 5% of this $90 billion remittance, and that's going into equity, into building companies, think about the development that can happen. That's an opportunity. Between 2016 and 2021, the data I have shows that there's about 1.3 million recent immigrants into Canada, out of which there's about 13 to 15% of them are Africans. So approximately between 30 to 50,000 immigrants coming into Canada are Africans. Now, these immigrants tend to be more entrepreneurial. How do we help them accelerate the process of company building? And by the way, that's what we do. I spent all my years, after that code setting me free, everything I've done since then is to just create a company, create another company, create a company, because I believe that it is in entrepreneurship and company creation that the world's greatest problems will be solved. That is where Africa's problem will be solved. That is where economic generation can happen. So from a Canada standpoint, how can Canada tap into that so that companies are getting created here by immigrants, companies are getting created back home in Africa through remittance flows, and we connect the bridge. That's the bridge we're talking about today and over the next few days within this conference. So as Venture Daddy Group, my mission has become building venture studios, a studio of studios. When I started Greenhouse Capital, which is a fund, and we started Fund 1, Fund 2, we invested in 65 fintechs across Africa. My mission has now turned into how can we create a venture capital studio to help VCs that want to start to create fast, because it's by democratizing entrepreneurship and fund creation that we drive change. And that's how we build the bridge. Most recently, we started a nonprofit, Open Africa, which is all about how can we begin to form syndicates, angel syndicates that can again invest in innovators. Now, the opportunity around company creation, fund creation, my thesis has become really all about camels, not unicorns. I think everybody is chasing unicorns, right? But I don't believe in unicorns. I believe unicorns is more like a gamble. Because if you think about the statistical probability of building a unicorn versus the statistical probability of building a camel, which is a company that is sustainable, that is profitable, that is gradually growing over the years, you'll see that what makes sense is that the world needs to stop celebrating unicorns, especially in these growth markets, right? It's not about billion-dollar valuations and explosive growth. It's about sustainability. So Africa doesn't need unicorns, it needs camels, businesses that survive the deserts. And that's what we've been creating. That's what our studios create. These are companies that carry communities forward. These are companies that create sustainability and profitability, not just fundable companies based on hockey stick charts that go this way, but maybe eventually crash. Now, the reason why that is important is because the capital stack is not complete. In many of these countries, you don't have the IPO markets, you don't have the M&A infrastructure. So why are you building for the Silicon Valley model? I think there's a possibility to combine something like the Toronto Venture Capital Exchange, the SLE Exchange, and connect that with Africa SME and create magic. Especially while everybody is getting distracted with the global wars, with AI, with trade. How do you quietly build a new model? A model anchored on canals. In the last decade, Africa minted fewer than 10 unicorns, right? Over 10 years. In that time period, I would argue that we've built thousands of sustainable canals that nobody is celebrating. I think that's where the magic is. Imagine building a stock exchange between Africa and Canada that's anchored on that thesis. Game changing. I think the next decade belongs to canals. I think fintechs that generate cash, that serve millions, and that endure. What are the markets that are very interesting as we think about Africa? Typically, we think about Kenya, Egypt, Nigeria, South Africa. But in the last 3 years, I've spent time in Uganda. I've spent time in Francophone West Africa. And you see that beyond the big four, there's also an incredible opportunity. Who is building those bridges? That's where the opportunity is. So what will it take to move forward? As I said, I'm here not as a politician, not as a theorist, not as an academician, even though all of them are relevant, but really as a builder, and really as a builder of builders. Just like Dr. Aino has inspired me to and backed some of our companies, I'm here to say, how do we back the next generation? How do we back the future builders? And how do we bring the triple helix of government and universities and, all the other stakeholders together, right, anchored on the diaspora to make the new magic happen? So what will it take? Number one, the talent bridge, the cross-border pipelines of talents, the Canadian VAC, the Canadian fintech talent, African developers, exchange programs, diaspora internships, co-created research labs between universities across Africa and Canada. What will it take? Regulatory bridges, shared sandboxes between Canadian regulators and African markets, fast-tracking cross-border approvals for payment, identity, digital credit. What will it take? Capital bridges between TSXD and the GSE in Johannesburg and the NSC in Nairobi, the EGX in Egypt, the NGX in Nigeria. Diaspora syndicates that takes a portion of that $90 billion and invests it in future startups. That's the opportunity. Blended finance models, bringing DFIs, private capital, pension funds together. And then fourthly, infrastructure bridges, payment rails, digital identity, broadband, power, building real-world assets, solid minerals, energy, digital assets, stable coins. We've seen the Genius build in the US. What's Canada's response? And how can that create and turbocharge the future of fintech, the future of financial services, the future of trade? I think that's what we do, and the time is now. As I wrap up, my call today is really a call to builders, the people that want to build. The moment is now. To the founders in the room, your ideas are not small. Africa is not an afterthought, but your solutions can set global standards, right? To the Canadian investors and institutions, this is not charity. The world is moving from aid to trade. This is actually alpha. The people that were investing in China and India 25 years ago, they're smiling today. It's about seeing what the future can be and coming in early with patience and with courage. To the regulators, it's about unlocking value. It's not just about guarding against risk. We can guard against risk while at the same time unlock incredible potential. To the diaspora, do not be spectators. You're architects, you're builders, you're entrepreneurs. Stop spending money home only for consumption. Start co-investing in ownership, because entrepreneurship is what's going to transform the continent. As I close, I think it's not just about fintech. I see fintech as an infrastructure. It's really about mobilizing capital at scale. It's about de-risking the process of entrepreneurship. It's about rapid experimentation. And it's really about looking at bridging continents, currencies, and communities. And as I said earlier, when the world is so confusing, when things are moving rapidly, is the best time to build. And this opportunity that this conference presents allows us to exchange ideas and test ideas rapidly. So we're building a new capital infrastructure that's diaspora powered, that is Camel sustained. Let's stop chasing unicorns. That's Canada enabled, and that's Africa centered. Really, ultimately, we build a rising tide that this all boats. Thank you very much.